Hey everyone, it's the Weekender, and it's time to give away another excellent tabletop gaming prize from the OnTableTop store. Last week we gave away a World War II starter set. This week we're also going to give away a World War II starter set, but this time for 15mm Wargaming. That's right, peeps. This is your chance to win the excellent Hit the Beach starter set for Flames of War, but we're going to give away two of them. The first one we're going to give away to a viewer here on YouTube who likes this video, subscribes to the channel, and comments down below. But the other we're going to give away to one of our members over at OnTabletop.com. If they do have a particular thing, I will tell you about that in a moment. But first, the weekend starts now. Everyone, welcome to the show. This week, I'm joined by the lovely Ben and Jerry, as always. The tasty boys. And I'm, of course, Lloyd. And you want to know how you can win that other set of Hit the Beach. Well, we'll tell you how you can win that other set of Hit the Beach. To be in with your chance of winning that, come on over to ontabletop.com and get a forum post started. We're going to be picking the most interesting topic in our forums created in the next 7 days. Isn't that right, chaps?
Going to have a link down below in the description where you can go and click through and find all that stuff.
Yeah, so if you come on over to the website and you click forums, you'll come through to the forums and you can see what's going on. Now is as good a chance as any to make your account and get stuck in with the community, because we're going to be picking our second winner from the topics over the next 7 days.
I'm not saying if you pick Saga as your topic, you may have a better chance of winning, but it won't hurt.
Always the way. Always the way.
What? Something to do with Vikings? Gee whiz. I couldn't be persuaded that way. No way. No way. Not. Let's get stuck straight into this show with Indy of the Week. What are we going to look at, chaps?
We are going to be taking a look at ClearHorizon Miniatures.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So it's an American company who do a range of 15mm in the main sci-fi. There are a few non-15 and non-sci-fi things lurking in there, but more or less it's sort of hard sci-fi for people who like their hard sci-fi. So
yeah.
No grim dark, no post-apocalyptic, aliens and humans duking it out across the galaxy.
ClearHorizon's Miniatures, ClearHorizonMiniatures.com. Where would you like to start?
Well, if you jump up to the easiest way to go is via the shop, I suppose.
All right, I've clicked that, so we're going to open the shop. Here we go.
Good. Correctamundo, you've gone in the right direction. So it's mostly human-esque, although you do get other bits and pieces sort of trucking through there. So if we have a look right off the start, something like, well, start with the Epsilon squads. If you see them on the left, everything I'm picking from is from the big wall of text, Lloyd.
Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea. Oh, here we go.
There we go.
You're taking us straight into the...
Yeah, so it's a bit mecha. The Cyclops is actually listed as a Maxo for 15mm. He's a chunky boy. And it's quite nice because he's got a very unusual head. I like the domed head on it. It has that Cyclops in a mechanical form.
Yeah, and it reminds me of GLaDOS from Portal as well. It's got that kind of weird look to it. It's very
sure. I don't know what any of those words mean, but sure.
And it's a bit like the big mechy sort of robots from Titanfall as well. With that going on.
Again,
which is sweet.
I don't know what they are.
That's some white noise for Jerry.
Yeah, because it's got that, having the central head in the middle of the torso rather than stuck up on the shoulders. I just like it. Feels like somebody's piloting that.
Yeah, rather than having to stretch their body too far. And what else is in the squad?
The other ones are more like powered armored suits. So you have the Gruntz. And it's very Starship Troopers. If anybody's either seen the cartoon or read the book, they'll know what I'm talking about with the ape suits that they wear around the place. the environmental sort of larger powered armored suits that they strap in and go punching face in. So they're a bit chunky for when you really need to do something in zero gravity, or you've come up against something particularly big that you want to punch repeatedly in the face with a pneumatic fist. All of these things and more can be yours.
They remind me a bit of the kind of suits that you see in the Tom Cruise movie,
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow, that is not called that in any other country.
All you need is kill is the name of the original book. Yeah. And it's a fantastic name, and yet they decided to go with the dullest name. So dull that people thought that the poster promoting it was a different title. Because they had Live, Die, Repeat on the posters, and everybody thinks that's the name of the movie, and it's not. How did they pick such a dull name? I don't know. Anyway.
I thought the original name of the film was that as well. It was great.
Well, let me move us on into infantry and combat robots. Does this stuff blend nicely with what we just looked at, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, this is more human.
And all 15 mil as well. So.
Yeah. So the other ones, I mean, the last set, the Epsilon squads were humans in chunkier armor. These are more just your grunts, your ground troops, with robot dogs. Because K9 units are always good. Especially in the future. You can't send dogs into space. That would be cruel and unusual. But robot dogs were all for that.
I do like those. They're very cool.
I also like the fact that they're based individually, because the urge with 15 is to base everything onto unit bases.
Yes.
Which you see in a lot of games. But I like the idea that you can play out just either massive games or just small games on small tables. It is
making me think that you could just do like a Titanfall style game with a bunch of those guys in the power armor, and then get some of the big mecha that they do as well.
Yeah,
and use something like the Gruntz rules and stuff, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well. But
why do they get skeletons shoved in the middle of all this? Is this for dead people?
Because they're still technically humans. They're just dead humans.
They're making like little stars and little snow angels out of dead people. Brilliant.
You can do that. You might be trying to summon something. Also, there's a few companies out there that sell skeleton dollies if you want to try your hand at sculpting. And then you would just dress them with pat. I suggest anybody who wants to try sculpting should probably start with a slightly larger scale than 50.
Probably.
Just,
you could do like easier. You could do like a Terminator post-apocalyptic world with a load of skellies.
Have them hanging onto the chain link fence.
Well, they're metal, so you could just hammer them up. The Universal Shipping and Heavy Industry Transport Craft Ushi, which just looks like a dumpy little shuttle, which I love. And it's one of several resin vehicles they do, which are just fantastic.
There's one on the homepage that catches my attention. So, well, actually, there's two.
A Hades, was it? I think it's
catch my attention.
Yeah.
Or the dropship.
Look at this. What the heck?
It's very similar to the Saber from Star Wars. It has all those angles. It's like a crawler.
Is everything on this site 15 mil?
No, one of the links you've opened there is 28. They do like two 28 mil figures.
This jobby.
Crafts, yeah. So that is the same thing again, but just in 28 mil.
I think I remember something about like when these first came out was that a lot of people had seen them in 15 mil and were thinking that would be amazing if I could have that in 28 mil for use alongside something like Infinity. And so they were like, okay, well, we'll make some 28 mil versions for you to just use as background terrain and that kind of thing. So,
and then I've absolutely no doubt, because people on the internet are the worst, that nobody bought them once they made them. That's what they always do. If you make this, we'll definitely buy it. No, we didn't sell any.
Definitely, it screams Infinity.
It does,
especially with the opening hatch, and you can get your minions.
You can see that as what, especially in that color. I think maybe it's the color that's dragging me towards it, but that would be very good for Ariadne.
Yeah, or you could work it into some sort of alternative. Well, it even says Marines on alternative dropship for like Aliens versus Predator and things like that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That would be sweet. Where do you want to go next, gents? So, is it all sci-fi stuff then?
It's all sci-fi.
Okay.
Yeah, bar the Skelly Bobs.
What about this?
Theoretically or not.
I'm just going to click something
you're
randomly.
just going to click things now, yeah.
Oh, look at this. Is this 15?
Yes.
Yep.
The answer to your question will generally be yes, because there are only two vehicles in 28 mil and you've already looked at one.
All right, okay.
So you're 50% down on that. But it's very, I like that because again, it's very Infinity-like, but it's also got very Blade Runner feel. If it didn't have those wheels on, it would feel like a spinner.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they haven't stuck on a base. Usually 15mm vehicles and whatnot always get stuck on bases for some reason.
Not always.
Oh,
sometimes it's just because it's easier to cast.
90% of the time they're on flipping bases. And then people stick them on bases if they don't come on bases, and it winds me right up. What do we have a look at them? Will we have a look at some of their packs?
Can do.
Oh, right, okay.
That's probably not the best place to go to see
That's not the best place. Right. Okay, I will follow your directions, Jerry. I've done clicking.
Have you, though? Have you?
Oh, what's this? Look at this.
I've no idea what that. Oh, it's the Hades mech. So it's essentially a walker. Think a gym buggy, but somebody's taken the wheels off and stuck it on legs instead.
Oh, that's sweet. Oh, I could come back here for... Oh, right, here we go, bugs. Oh.
So the Prime... As you can see, with the humans they have and the bugs, and obviously the fact that the humans come in two flavors, unarmored grunts and then ape-style power suits, it is absolutely perfect to recreate Starship Troopers on the tabletop.
Very much so, yeah.
And they do have a nice range of sizes with the Prime as well.
Oh, I don't like
going
this.
From your individual. What's wrong with that? It's just like an earwig, but with guns.
Oh, that's why I don't like it. Earwigs. Oh, the creepiest of things. Oh, I don't like earwigs at all. We went camping one time, and I was sitting drinking in the dark, in the tent, and I was like, Warren, something keeps touching my lip. He's like, probably dirt or something. And I'll eventually turn on the light. Earwigs swimming around, drinking, touching my lip.
Lovely.
No, earwigs turn me right off. Right off. So great. Let's get those and shoot them dead. Brilliant.
But yeah, if you click on the Hades selection, I think there's some more sort of like character-based stuff. So if you scroll up,
I've got loads of Hades stuff right here that I can click on.
The reason I'm not navigating via the pictures is the pictures change every time you reload. That's not a set layout.
Oh.
But yeah, this gives you some of the slightly more specialized elite troops and things that they did. Because, the game that I mentioned earlier, Gruntz, isn't by ClearHorizon, but it's like a game that they've decided would be a really good way for you to dive in and sort of use this collection. And I think they did like a skirmishy version and a sort of more mass battle style, mecha style one as well.
Star Gruntz covers all the bases. That pangolin floating APC is particularly nice.
I was just looking at that going, that's swish. Anybody who went in on the Spartan Games Halo stuff, you could probably pick this up as an alternative sort of vehicle or something. Wasn't it 15mm?
Was it
10? Was it a 10mm?
It may have been 10 or 6. It was.
You could probably still get away with that though, because it would just look like a larger door for your troops.
Oh yeah,
that'd be pretty swish. You could swat a lot of bugs with these things. It's kind of what I'm picturing. I'm picturing driving around Halo-esque Warthog style, smashing bugs.
You have a look at the flyers.
Okay, but I just want to get to the tank. Look at that.
That is a really awesome looking tank.
Oh,
puts me in mind of Command and Conquer, mammoth tanks and stuff.
With the four independent track sets on it, it's very Halo-esque as well.
Very Scorpion. Yeah, very true.
Right, flyers.
Yeah. check out the VTOLs. Still in the vehicle drones and drop pod section you were in, the very last section, the VTOL.
Just there, I can see it just on the screen. I'm pointing at it with my mind. There we go.
These are some stunners in here,
and this is where you will have seen the ship that you spotted on the front page as well. So,
oh yeah, why didn't we go to this section straight away?
Because I like to start from the top and work my way down, so we're not jumping back and forward and getting confused and missing things.
Like that.
Whereas you like to click. This is why. So yeah, there is. I think that's the 28mm version beside it. I imagine because
there are two different ships.
They do a 28mm flyer.
I think that's all 15.
No, ignore me.
We've seen that one.
It's the Nemesis.
Come back to this.
That's the stealth.
Ooh.
Very drone-esque.
Yeah.
And that's a heck of a gun.
But I like the idea that with a lot of the stuff that you get from this set, you can do either the combined arms style approach, and this is the one that I think is just amazing. It's very cool. But you can either do like a combined arms approach, or you could even maybe go in and just take a couple of the different fighters, paint them in different styles, and just do kind of like a low orbit style sort of dogfight thing as well. That could be pretty cool too.
This again is 15mm. There's a real gold mine for sci-fi and 15mm. This,
especially the vehicles, because you can find companies do a lot of miniatures because it's easier to do infantry.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of ranges out there that don't have the depth as far as the vehicles go, but they may have a better range or a more comprehensive range of infantry.
Have they some sort of game system for this? Because I see this like card. Is it just sort of to whet your appetite?
I don't know what that card is based off. There's no game specifically tied to this, although there are a few things for like this is not a test. So they have some post-apocalyptic sort of wasteland raidery types in case you wanted to play This Is Not a Test in 15, or as Ben was saying, Gruntz or Star Gruntz.
Yeah, I think Gruntz is the one that a lot of these tie back into most of all. So
sweet. I don't know.
But as Jerry was saying, like I think vehicles is the way to go with these in terms of picking some stuff up, because then you can look at other companies. I know I think it's Rebel Minis do like a big range of sci-fi 15mm stuff that you could use on the tabletop, and then just bring in these vehicles and you'd have everything sorted basically, which is pretty cool. So yeah,
that's epic. I really like that.
Yeah,
because me personally, I haven't really seen a lot of people are going to correct me and say there's loads of it, Lloyd, there's loads of it, but me personally, I've not really seen very much sci-fi being played at 15mm. Every time I've watched someone play something at 15mm, it usually turns out to be Flames of War.
I think it's mainly because with sci-fi you tend to get the idea that a lot of it's skirmish based, and so 28mm just seems to fit for a lot of people because that's the scale that everyone's used to, and it kind of gives you that more cinematic feel, I think. I suppose for a lot of people in 28mm. But then when you think about it, and we've talked about it in the past when we looked at some other ranges and things, taking things down to 15mm means you get to add things like planes and dropships and all that kind of stuff, and mecha, and it also means that you can do larger scale tabletops. So instead of you just playing in maybe like a corner of a city in 28mm, you could play things out over an entire sector of a city, or even the entire city, by playing it in 15mm because of the drop in scale. So
yeah, and it means you're not having something like in 28mm or 32, for example. So GW brought flyers and an aircraft in to 40k, and they don't really work because
tend to arrive and then go again.
Yeah, by the time they arrive and then leave again, I imagine their work here is done. They've either fired their load before or after they arrive at the table. Yeah. It's just too small a space for them to be used effectively in any manner that would mirror or mimic what they should be doing.
Yeah.
Whereas in 15mm, you have the ability to have dogfights to try and, especially with VTOL aircraft, try and hide behind a skyscraper and pop out and do somebody up like a kipper. Which
I'm liking these aliens, by the way, as well.
Yeah.
Because this is the third race. We've had humans, we've had bugs, and we've now got, what are these called?
Cura. Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
And again, going back to Starship Troopers, the third alien race, which I want to say was called Skinnies, but I can't honestly remember. It's been so long since I've read the book. But they're a more advanced alien race, unlike the bugs who are just, bitey.
I really love some of these. There's one you clicked on as well that I can't wait for you to look at closer. It's the bike.
This is not a test. Wasteland Raider type people. So.
Oh, cool. It's one of those dogs that everyone takes the piss out of online and is definitely going to attack back when it learns.
At some point they will kill us all.
I don't know if
Boston Dynamics will kill us all.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would ever buy any of these because I would just be too tempted to model all my guys with a leg up booting it.
You're fine until your opponents arm themselves with hockey sticks.
Yeah.
Spend their time knocking QR code boxes away from you.
They look like a little bit like stingwings, those guys. So, Vespers. Yeah. Now that's awesome. Oh.
We're getting slightly bigger picture.
Because I was like, oh, that awesome bike looks excellent. I love the sort of hollow wheels. Very nice. Yeah, very cool. Oh, man, that's awesome.
And somebody's dismounted. And that's interesting. I mean, you don't see it often. You see it in historics. Mounted infantry. So they'll ride to a position using the horse for speed and then dismount and then actually do the fighting on foot. Bike regiments in sci-fi tend to get used like some sort of weird shock troop. You just drive over people.
Well, that's exactly what Space Marine bikers do. Yeah. So,
whereas actually having the dismounted one is nice because you could see them, relocate your resources to another side of the battlefield. And then drop out a regular infantry unit and leave the little dismounted bike there as a marker to where they've put their stuff.
Yeah.
I like it because they've essentially given you the options. You've got their assaulting on bike. You've got their giving directions on bike. You've got guy who's about to bash someone road rash style on bike. Brilliant.
While playing all the best music of the early 90s.
That's it. This is
slinky bodysuits. I like those as well. The combat drones. They're very neat.
That's a good way of bringing a different scale in.
Yeah.
Like, because you've got a 15mm troop here, but you got another troop type that's bigger by introducing the sort of robotic drones.
This is also making me think that this could also be a very nice way to play something like Stargrave, but in a smaller scale as well.
That would be genius, actually.
Because Stargrave is all individually...
all individual based stuff, skirmish. Yeah. You just need to maybe find a couple more options from different manufacturers, but you'd be pretty on your way with a lot of stuff they got here. So
and there's plenty of other manufacturers out there, some of which we've seen, like CP models, and some of which we've yet to see.
Yeah,
that's
from
cool.
Jerry's long list.
Fear not.
I like the
where we may run out at some stage. It's like can't see it anytime soon. We're fine for the next couple of years.
Oh, those are cool as well. I like those. And you've got like a proper squad of like commanders as well there too. So you got the medic and all sorts of other bits and pieces. Very cool.
Are you disappointed that there's only one sci-fi dwarf so far?
Have we seen a sci-fi dwarf?
No, we haven't.
There's a sci-fi dwarf. Oh yeah, sci-fi dwarves. One. Yeah.
He is quite nice then.
Underneath mechs on the side.
Oh, we're gonna say now. I'm gonna have to go to see that.
Yeah.
Where do I get them?
Underneath mechs. There you go. Underneath.
Oh, sci-fi dwarfs. Let's see.
Is it just one sci-fi dwarf? It's one sci-fi dwarf.
Well, it's
a little pack. Hey.
Pack, so.
Hey.
Well, those are brilliant. I love those.
And they remind me so much of the classic squats from back in the day.
Yeah.
Where you've got like a mixture of helmets, bare heads, cowboy hats, cigar chomping fellas. It's just great.
Oh, sweet.
Weapons bigger than their bodies as well, as it should be. So.
But only that one set. No full army for you, Ben.
Oh, man.
Oh, Helldivers.
Just having them as your elites at some point coming in.
Look at that.
You could use those as your ODST in Halo.
Yeah, with the drop pods. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Oh, I like that a lot.
Orbital drop shock troopers.
I'm so glad you did that because I had no idea what.
At least I think that's the designation. I was trying to remember if there was anything special in it, but I think that's it. So
I would have to say I'm pleasantly surprised because when you said we're going to look at 15mm sci-fi, I was like, okay, let's see what comes up. But yeah, I do like it. I like it a lot, actually.
We can stay on that screen for a little while.
No, we're not going to stand up flipping dwarves.
You always skip over my dwarves.
Oh, they've got 28mm troops to go with the ships.
Yes, not many.
There's even that tank, which is very cool. So you've got slightly gangly troopers.
Yeah.
I think they are the same guys that you seen beside your OPDQS drop pod earlier.
Yeah.
It's the same fellas, but just imbigulated.
That would make sense. Yeah. They look pretty cool, though. I do like them.
It's a nice squad.
Nice. Yeah.
And like you say, for something like Stargrave.
They would work perfectly well. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I like about it because it's such a small range. You're not seeing these on every table. So if you do put them down, people are going to be going, ooh.
Yeah.
I quite like the long legs.
You could always have them just be aliens as well. They don't have to be humans, I guess, too. So,
they could be humans that have grown up on a low-grav planet, so they've got taller.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me.
They're gangly.
Like belters in The Expanse. Yeah.
That's right, Jerry. The day you were born, the Earth tilted the wrong direction. I think
you're just looking at flight stands now. That is an actual 28mm vehicle. There we go.
There's the other nemesis. Again, that's another chunky piece of kit.
Yeah,
I think could look particularly attractive.
Pick that up, and that would work really nicely alongside some sort of Antonosity's workshop, or Antonositis. I can never remember how you say the name.
Antonosity is how I've always pronounced it.
Yeah. But yeah, that would be a good mix for that. That's also a good shout for a future one as well. A future indie. But,
they've all gone very weird. It's all STLs these days.
Oh.
Yeah, very cool. So
Clear Horizon.
Yeah, ClearHorizonMiniatures.com. One, check it out.
Be there or be a rectangular thing.
I know, I'm going to keep checking it out. I particularly like these guys when we were browsing around. Because if I was going to go down this route, I might make the bulk of my forces more like this, so lighter stuff, and then squeeze in the more heavily armored guys as my specialist troops.
You always need your specialists, as we found out. So
right. Okay, that's enough of that.
But what's going to be your dogs?
There's dogs in there. We've seen them.
That is true. Dogs. That is true.
Yeah. Sorted, peeps. Sorted. Right. Classic Indie of the week. Let's get stuck into the news.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
So, starting off the news this week with just a little bit of a quick update. Mythic Games are going to be coming back with round 2 of Super Fantasy Brawl in March.
Ooh, round 2!
Yeah, so a new Kickstarter is going to be coming out, which will focus on bringing a selection of new champions to the game, alongside additional support for a retail release of the product as well. So that's going to be fully detailed. Obviously, there was a little bit of a problem with that last year, being COVID and all that kind of thing.
I say, ooh, round 2. Is there nothing to look at except this picture?
Apart from that, right now, yes, that is. But this is why I said it's also quick news. There is also going to be an update for organized play and how that's going to work going forward as well. As you can see, we've also done loads and loads of Let's Plays and sort of round breakdowns and all sorts of things about the game.
Yes, if I go back, we have 1, 2, 3 Let's Plays, do we?
And there are 2 more as well in the Super Fantasy Brawl Hub as well. So you can go check those out.
Ooh. 2 more, so 4 Let's Plays and a round breakdown.
Yes,
cool.
I think
so the rules aren't changing as far as you're aware. It's just like
so it's going to be the same rules as they were at the end of the last Kickstarter when the original version of it released. This is just going to be a big new update to it with new champions and all sorts of new things to mess around with on that front. One of the core features of it is obviously you get to pick your selection of different champions, pull their cards together, and then you make your own unique faction to use in the game. So this will basically just allow you to have even more options. And we should be learning a little bit more about this from the guys at Mythic Games in the near future as well. So watch out for that.
Like Ben says, if you come over to the website on tabletop.com and you come on through the Super Fantasy Brawl section, you will get all the juicy stuff that we have about it. That way, if you were on the first Kickstarter and you want to get back up to speed, after being locked up in lockdown, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, and obviously, if you have got yourself the original Kickstarter set and you've been playing the game, drop some reviews and stuff in there, because there's a big, huge little review section for you to go and put your thoughts in as well, which is cool.
Tell the world what you thought.
Exactly.
I love your feedback. Yeah. And while you're at it, go and get a forum thread started, because you can win that epic prize.
Very true. Very true. Yeah.
like we did there, Lloyd.
Yeah.
Actions.
Yeah, now we move on to some news from the guys at Kromlech. They have been starting off their big set of releases for 2021. There are going to be some very awesome Necron-y things coming down the pipeline. But the releases for the month of February were their Sons of Thor Prime range. So this is a selection of new heads, bodies, weapons, accessories, and all sorts of bits and pieces for you to make your own version of the, let's just say, Viking Space Knights, I guess, to use on the tabletop.
The Viking Knights.
The Vikingites, yes. That does sound like an alien race from an 80s TV show.
Pretty sure that's what House was addicted to.
that or something you treat hemorrhoids with. One of the two.
Yeah. Make sure to use Vikingites on yours. Yeah. So they've done a selection of new resin pieces, as you can see here. The heads and stuff will also work with official miniatures. So if you wanted to just go in and use just the headsets to make more unique looking space walls, for example, then you can do that. But they've also provided the bodies and the arms and everything else you need as well, on top of a extended range of Prime Legionnaire stuff that they've done already. So if you want to pick up things like alternative weapons for bolters and heavy weapons and that kind of thing, they also do all of that over on their web store as well, all compatible with what you're seeing here. I really like a lot of the designs we've been getting because they get across that kind of like savage Viking feel, which I think is really nice. All of the different rune axes look fantastic. I think I really think they're really cool, especially with all the different designs that they've done for them. So because I like that each of the different axes is different, means that you could kind of play around with the idea that each of them is like a iconic relic from the faction that they've sort of taken out of the vaults or something, which is pretty cool.
This one in particular is kind of cool, right?
It's awesome.
Because I've been watching stuff about Vikings and Glima, which is the Viking martial art. I think it's called Glima, something like that. Anyway, and the guy's like, yeah, and then if you hold your axe like this, you can swing it. But if you grab it up underneath that like lip bit, you can then just use it as a knife and you can hit people with it and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, ooh. So I'm realizing there's a load of minis that I've put weapons in the hands of all wrong. I should be like getting them all ready to stab each other with just
like knuckle dusters.
That's it, with the edge
Viking
of a
knuckle
big
dusters.
Ass blade.
Bearded axes are good though. We all enjoy bearded axes.
Yeah.
Love me a
bearded axes for bearded warriors.
I quite like the fact that there seems to be a I suppose Logan-esque head as well. Because the very first set, there you go. See him? I can't not see him. Old man Logan there.
Of course, yeah.
Which makes perfect sense.
Give him some lightning claws and he's away.
Yeah.
So,
and I imagine we'll be seeing quite a few people like that, going schnickety-schnick on people.
Yeah. I particularly liked, as part of the accessories kit, which is the one at the very bottom, they did a stein of beer. So if your space Viking wants to go out and smash heads, of course, take your pint with you. That's the way to go. So, yeah, very cool.
Sweet. Loving it. Right, gents, what is next?
Next up, we're moving to the realm of steampunk and pulp adventure with the release of the second edition of In Her Majesty's Name, which is by the Ministry of Gentlemanly Warfare, which is a fantastic name for a company, I might add. So this is going to be the second edition of the game. The original edition came out for Osprey Games a couple of years ago. Had a couple of expansions to it as well, which sort of took it in different directions. But this is them going back to sort of tweak and refine the rules for their skirmish game so that you can dive in and play around with a new set of adventuring companies. As I say, skirmish game, so it's all about sort of like a handful of figures on the tabletop, duking it out for all sorts of strange pulpy things. Maybe you want to go and raid tombs, or maybe you want to fight off the undead on the cobbled streets of Victorian London, and all kinds of things like that.
I was just going to ask that. Obviously, I was thinking, is this based in London? But then, of course, as soon as you see the minis and stuff, no, it's based all around the place, isn't it? Yeah.
So it should be pointed out that In Her Majesty's Name is miniature agnostic and also scale agnostic. Base agnostic, I should say. So you can use any miniatures you like for this, as long as they obviously fit within the steampunky pulp thing, although don't let that stop you. But the guys at North Star Military Figures put together these different sets using a range of different options that they have throughout their entire collection and stuff as well. So you can make Chinese warband, as you can see there, or maybe you can go down the route of doing like the undead sort of Austro-Hungarian style force as well, which would be pretty cool. And they've even got like classic Sherlock Holmesian style sets as well. So whichever way you want to go with this, be it the more sort of traditional steampunk or going down the pulp alley and looking at things like the Mummy and that kind of thing, you can definitely do that and have fun with this and dive in.
Yeah, terrific little set of rules as well, and the fact that you can get whatever you want on the table. So if you're a fan of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen movie, I don't know who that is, but if you are, you can recreate that on the tabletop. And you can just go nuts with things like Cobblestone Castings, do a great pulp range, as do Crusader, or you could use Volsung or Twisted from Demented Games. I mean, you can pick up whatever you want. They have put out a PDF to update the I'm trying to remember the name of the books. Sleeping Dragons, Rising Sun, and Heroes, Villains, and Enemies.
Yes.
They've done updates that you can download if you've got those books already, if you want to push them into second edition. So you can keep using those things. So it'll be interesting to see where else they go with it now that they've decided to push on to the second edition.
Yeah, so it's not a new game. It's been around for quite a while now.
Yeah, it's been around for a couple of years now. They did so the original series of them were all the sort of blue books by Osprey. So if you're familiar those with the likes, they've done the same thing with A Billion Suns, for example, which is coming out and that kind of thing. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, you can go and check out those books and then get the updates for them as well.
Sweet. Cool. I know what I'm going to go and check out. I'm going to go and check these guys out. The Black Dragon Tongue.
They are very cool.
That is my Big Trouble in Little China just waiting to happen right there.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing right there. Actually, now you say that, not just Big Trouble in Little China, but taking films or pop culture movies that you like and then just going and using them as the basis for a faction or a scenario or a campaign in Her Majesty's name.
I will also point out that the Ministry of Gentlemanly Warfare do a couple of other games as well, which are probably worth taking a look at. They do Thud, which is their fantasy war game, and they also do a Viking game, Lloyd.
What?
Yeah.
Why haven't we highlighted it? Look at that t-shirt, man. Look at that t-shirt.
It's called Blood Eagle, and it's kind of like a very cool, sort of very character-focused one around a small warband. So it might be worth checking that out as well.
Sweet.
That wasn't a sentence, but yeah, go and check it out.
Right. Before we get completely distracted, what are we moving on to next?
So next up, we're moving to a little preview from the guys at Parabellum for Conquest. So they've shown off a couple of the new units that are going to be coming up very, very soon for the 100 Kingdoms. So this is a section of ranged options for you to pick up and play around with. You've got the Hunter Cadre, which is the set that you see there, which use their crossbows for taking down mighty monsters in your opponent's force. So maybe if the abomination is skulking around, not that it skulks, but if it's ranging around on the battlefield, you can take that down with your Hunter Cadre. And then if you prefer taking down regular troops and sort of peppering them with arrows from afire, you also have a set of the Longbowmen as well, who are going to be available at the same time, which is very cool. And again, really nice new sculpts from the guys at Parabellum. I think both of these sets look very, very cool. I particularly like the Hunter Cadre. I think the
is that these guys?
Yes, I like the detail in these. I think it's phenomenal. I think
the hat with the feather does it.
The feathered hats are always a win, that's for sure. But I just think I like all the poses and the detail that they've got into them as well. It puts you in mind of actual skirmish, which I think is key, especially with ranged forces, rather than them just all sort of stood there, all aiming their bows at exactly the same target kind of thing. I like the idea that they're all kind of like skirmishing around and running about, getting their arrows ready to fire at different targets. And it means that they'll especially work well for things like First Blood, if you want to go down the skirmish route as well. So,
And it's interesting, they were due for release end of March, early April, I think, something like that. They've actually been pulled forward.
Both boxes.
Yeah, so they're coming out the 8th of March now. They're due for retail release. And a few weeks ago, we seen the new Trolls for the Nords.
We did, yes.
They've also been pulled forward to the same date. So
brilliant.
So those boxes will all be coming out on the 8th of March.
Yeah.
Sweet. You can go and check out store.ontabletop.com because
I was about to say exactly that.
Yeah, we have the Conquest range up there. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. That should also mean that maybe we'll see the is it the Wadrunnen?
The Wadrun, the unpronounceable and unspellable for Google faction. They are coming in April, but there is a special Scion of Wardrun, so a War Priest, that is going to be available to pre-order for March, and it's limited. He'll only be available as the sort of the preview of the faction, and then after that they have a different sculpt that will be the main version going forward.
That's cool.
And if I'm being brutally honest, the pre-order version is much nicer. So if you have any intention of doing dinosaur riding orcs in your future for Conquest, get the preview model, because the other one is a bit static and dumb.
Nice.
He's just got one arm pointing, whereas the other one's a bit more, I'm going to cut you apart with scythes. So.
As it should be. Yeah.
Sweet. Right. One that gruesome thought. Let's move on.
Yeah. So from a gruesome thought to a gruesome world. The world of Malifaux is getting a new starter set for the Explorer Society, which is one of the new factions within the world of Malifaux. So this is going to be a new starter set that comes with everything basically you need to get playing with this faction. So you'll get all the kind of traditional gubbins that you would normally think about. So you're going to get rulers and cards, all that kind of thing you need. And the card deck is actually themed to the faction, which I think is just fantastic. But the cool thing about this, that Jerry pointed out to me, is that it comes with pre-assembled miniatures. So
it's here, right in the box, just there, pre-assembled.
So if you are one of those people who struggles to stick together weird miniatures because they can be a little fiddly, do not worry, because these come pre-assembled and ready to use out of the box, which is just fantastic. So
let's hope they put them together, with a bit of care and attention, because wasn't it last week I was talking about the pre-prime stuff?
Oh yeah,
the
left
Transformers.
world lines on them and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I don't think you're going to run into that problem as much, depending on how these are manufactured. I imagine they've gone for hard plastic, and
probably.
And as such, it should be relatively easy for them to get them together.
Yeah.
Weird's casting is very good. One of the reasons they are so fiddly is that it hides a lot of the mold lines.
Yes.
I think they've decided to go with somebody who's pointing out the poses are rather static compared to other weird models. I imagine that's for ease of assembly, because you don't want to be telling somebody that they need to put 50 pieces together to make one miniature and then do that 100 times for these boxes. So I think it's going to be relatively straightforward mold wise. So the fact that they're only pre-assembled, they're not pre-prime, means that you can always get in there and clean them up if you wish.
Yeah, it's not the mold lines. Mold lines, no problem, clean them up. It's if someone's rushing to put stuff together and they clip too close to an elbow or something like that, and suddenly it's gone, and you're green stuffing on the edge of an elbow that's not there. Because I've seen that with some of my dust minis. I got them through, and it was like someone's clipped them too close to the sprue, or too not close enough to the sprue, and you've lost a bit of elbow and things like that.
This set's going to be available in May, and I believe they're going to be doing a lot more of their starter sets in the same style as this going forward.
They are going to do, every faction will get a starter set like this.
That's really good.
So we're going to see some more previews over the next few weeks before even the Explorer Society lands. We're going to see another few expansions, and they're going to be coming out. I don't know if it's every month, but hopefully within the space of the next year there'll be a comprehensive set, because it's a great system, but it's one of those ones that if people don't know where to start and for getting new people into it, it can be tricky, whereas you just go, that box contains everything you need for that faction, go nuts.
I mean, that's the thing that, like, when I dived into Malifaux, absolutely loved the game, but I had no real idea of exactly which one I should start with, so I had to basically turn to someone who knew the game in and out and be like, right, I really want to play as the guild. What's the sort of pack that I should pick up? Thankfully, it was the right one, obviously, which is good. But they have kind of tried to aid in that with these starter sets as well. So they come with versatile characters within the set. So a lot of the different factions have sub-factions, and these will work with all of those. So there's no like, oh God, I've picked this setup, but I can't use them with this. I can't use
it somewhere else.
So, which is good.
I also love the Mari in it. The Mari carrying the huge patu to cave somebody's skull in.
Yes,
he just looks
cool.
amazing. Yeah, big fan.
Next, we're moving on to some historical wargaming. And this is the news that Warlord Games are now taking pre-orders for their revised edition of SPQR. So this is a game that released a couple of years ago now, I think, and was kind of a way for you to dive in and do skirmishes and kind of small warband style games set within the ancient period. sort of primarily aimed at sort of like Romans and Gauls, but they've also done a whole bunch of other different factions at this point. This is going to be their revised edition, which takes on board a lot of the community feedback that came out when the game initially launched. And so everything has been sort of like reworked, retuned, and refined. I don't know the specifics of it yet, but it's all been sort of like they've taken on board all of that information to try and deliver a new version of the game for everyone to dive into.
So does that mean that this is the original starter set but repacked with the new rules, is it?
Yes.
So that's the original box set. Same style of miniatures as you would have got in the original, but it comes with the new book. This also means, obviously, it's not been very long since the original rules came out. And so in order to kind of aid that, what Warlord have said they're going to do is they're doing sort of a redemption scheme. So if you want to pick up the new rules, but someone who picked up the old rules very, very recently or whatever, you can buy one of the infantry sets and you get given the rules, as you can see here, for free. So if you want to pick up some more Romans, you buy the box, you get the book for free. And this extends through until the end of March on the 24th. Which is pretty good. So,
that's not bad. It'll be interesting to see what they've done with the rules.
Yes.
Because there was an awful lot of feedback when it originally launched. An awful lot of feedback. So some of them were little things and some of them were fairly crucial game mechanics that needed to be tweaked. So
and pretty instant feedback too.
Oh, very much.
It didn't take very long to get the feedback.
No, it didn't. So hopefully that's rectified most of the issues that people had with it. While it is called SPQR and it does look like it focuses on Romans, it is just a ancient set.
Yes.
So there are warband lists in it for most of the people you'd find in around the Mediterranean. So I don't think they're Persians, but they're definitely Greeks.
I know they do Macedonians. They've got Numidians, Germanic hordes as well, not just
so
like Gauls
think
and
of
Celts and stuff. So.
If people think of it more as a because it's not even Imperial or Republic Rome, because I think there's warband lists for both, if memory serves. So it's like a broad spectrum. You've got a chunk of history, sort of 400 to 500 years, in and around the Med, and they'll cover most of them in there. Like it's interesting. I would like to see a copy of the rules and see exactly what they've done to refine it and fix it.
Yeah, but the box sets are all Republican Roman, aren't they?
No,
are they Imperial?
Those are Republican that you're looking at.
Yeah,
but I haven't been through to see, because it's not limited to just the Romans on the redemption scheme. They've just put together selections of box sets that you can pick up.
Oh, because the Republican Romans are the ones I like out of Warlord.
Right. Oh yes,
from a miniature standpoint of view, I think that's their better set of Romans, which is really cool. Plus, if you're into Clash or whatnot, you've got another rule set you can jump in and out of. You could quickly swap in and out between. This week we're playing Clash. This week we're playing SPQR.
Yeah, I think kind of like their original sort of ethos when they thought about bringing SPQR out was sort of focused on the idea that maybe you don't have the time to make huge mass battle forces. Instead, make a slightly smaller force around the sort of scale of a saga warband kind of thing, and play out games using that kind of scale of army. So,
it is sort of 30 to 50 figures.
Yeah,
ish. Let's say that's roughly what you're looking at for most of the warbands. With Celts and the like, that will go up. unless you want to play a super elite, just nothing but nobles as far as the eye can see, which is doable as well.
That then takes us down to a smaller scale and a fantasy world for the next piece of news. I believe we looked at Printing in Detail last week, but we're also looking at them again this week because they have taken some of the 3D sculpted miniatures by another creator called Moonjammy, which is a fantastic name, and bought new 10mm Shadow Elves to their web store for you to pick up in these physical formats. So the new range of these miniatures, again printed to this exceptionally high quality, which I think is just mind-boggling, especially for the small scale. We've got the Highborn, which comes both on foot and mounted on top of a lizard, cold one, to Warhammer aficionados. They've also done a Sorceress, who again comes on foot, casting spells, and also on top of a lizard. They've also got a assassin in the mix as well, who is presented on top of a piece of terrain, sort of skulking away in the background, as you can see there, sneaking up behind enemy lines to go and shank some War Machine crews and make sure they can't fire their weapons, as would often be the case in Warhammer. And then we have a section of more elite troops as well, because they do have a lot of Shadow Elves already available over on their web store, but these are kind of fleshing things out beyond the kind of like rank and file spearmen and crossbowmen and stuff. So we have the Blood Queen Chariot, which we just saw, and then the Blood Fanatics, which are kind of like your Daughters of Cain, which are pretty cool. And then there's also a set of cavalry. So you've got your elite Lizard Riders, again, sort of Cold One riders, sort of riding into battle. Now, the thing that's really cool about this is that the sculpting style from Moonjammy is very similar to the sculpting style of Forest Dragon, who's done the miniatures for example, the Wood Elves and the Vampires and that kind of thing in the past. So if you like that style of miniature and you wanted to continue to build on this with more Elves and just sort of like expanding your collection of 10 mil stuff, then they all work really nicely together because the style is so similar. And you are... Sorry, go.
Can we remember who sculpted the ones we were looking at last week in 3D
Forest
printing?
Dragon.
That's Forest Dragon 3D, yeah.
Because they were sweet.
They are very sweet, yeah.
So these should sit pretty well with that then.
Pretty much, yeah. They've got the same kind of proportional scale and that kind of thing to them. So you've still got the kind of the focus on sort of larger weaponry and the details and things like heads and stuff are more pronounced. And also all the armor is very nicely detailed as well.
Yeah. So you've given me two links here. You've given me a link to a Moonjammy as well.
Yeah, so Moonjammy is the one who sculpted these. So if you would prefer to go and pick up stuff either in STL format file, then you can go and pick up these from them directly. And also, I think they have access to ways for you to print them through My Manufacturing, that thing as well. So definitely go and check those out. Obviously, these creators are doing things through Patreon and all kinds of things like that too. So if you see them and you want to support them like specifically, then you can go and do that too, which is cool. So yeah, very awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah. The time of the 10 mil fantasy army is coming. I am just waiting until Forest Dragon or Moonjammy makes dwarves, and then I am away.
Oh, so. You've set people off somewhere. What do you mean coming? We've had 10 mil flipping fantasy armies for years.
What I specifically mean is the time of exquisitely cast 10 mil figures.
Printed. Exquisitely printed.
Do you want me to hold on showing you a dwarf army for next week, maybe then, as the end of the week, Ben?
Oh la la.
I'm going to get educated.
Educated.
I would say, when we talked about this, when we looked at the Forest Dragons Bretonian chivalric knights last week.
Yes.
Fantastic. They're set up specifically for people who want to play War Master because you've got the right number of bases per regiment right out of the box, so to speak. If you don't have access to War Master, you can pick up something like the Fantastic Battles rule set, which I looked at last week as well, because it is scale agnostic. So you base them wherever way you want, and then you work from there.
You mean the fact that they come in sets of 5?
Specifically, that they come in regiments of 6 strips, 2 strips to a base, 3 bases to a regiment. That is the War Master standard.
Right. Yeah.
So
there's also Warband by Pendragon, which is Pendragon, which is worth a shout as well. But Fantastic Battles looks like a really great one. Obviously, you talked about it last week, so we won't gild the lily too much. I really like the system they've gone with and stuff. It's really cool. And I move on from my dreams of 10mm Forest Dragon dwarves to talk about another thing that I love far too much, perhaps, to some people. And that is that Oathsworn Miniatures are working together with their community in order to bring a new sports game to the tabletop, set within, but not exclusive to, the world of Bows and Badges.
What?
So FurBall was the original name of the game, and that's how it was presented as part of the Oathsworn Journal that was out a couple of weeks ago, which included rules for playing a game based on the likes of Shinty and Hurling, which are Gaelic Celtic games, as people will no doubt be aware, perhaps. They're very dangerous, dangerous games.
It's not that dangerous.
Well, not now, but
I do remember having my head spliced open once, mind you. You know.
But this is now called BurrowBall, as has been decided by the community. And this was the first miniature that was ever done for this as part of their last Kickstarter, because Michael was like, let's just sculpt up something fun for what sports they might play. But so far, over in the Facebook group where everything is being play tested, because it's an entirely open play test at the moment, you can go and download the rules and give them a go. And they're working through things
Where's
like...
that?
There should be a Facebook group link maybe somewhere in there.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm going to say
you'll have to join the group though. So yeah, but they're doing things like working out the best way for the rules to play out. They're tweaking and testing things as things go. They're deciding on the way that the uniform should look. So I think they've sort of settled on now kind of like a mix between more modern but also medieval. So kind of bringing in leather armor and that kind of thing onto the models, which is pretty cool. This does mean Michael's going to do more sculpting, which is great. So
it was starting. I'm not going to say it was starting fights, but there were full and frank exchange of views over whether or not they should look like people playing sports or look like some sort of stripped down jester.
Yeah. But I like a mix between the two. I think it's a happy medium.
What did you say it's called now? So it's not called FurBall. It's not called
BurrowBall.
BurrowBall.
They discovered that there's actually a card game called FurBall that exists already on the market. And even though this is a miniatures game and has nothing to do with it, they went rather than run into the issue of people trying to find their game and coming across the other one and vice versa, that they would just change it before they get that far.
That's unfortunate. So they didn't go with my suggestion of Hairy Ball then.
No, they didn't.
No.
Didn't go with that. Furling came awfully close.
I was going to say as well, as I was saying, the rules are available as part of the OT1 journal, and you can just download them as soon as you get access to the group as well. Yeah. They're listed up there at the top of the comment, and you can give the game a go. I had looked through the rules, and they seem pretty cool. It's very sort of dynamic and free-flowing. Like the passage of play from the ball and that kind of thing is really easily done, and it uses a lot of the kind of sort of touchstones of the original Burrows and Badgers rules as well. So if you've played that game, then it's quite an easy sort of translation over. Basically, maybe you'll find some time to go and do some sort of tweaking and twerking and create some miniatures from the original range to use in as your new teammates as well.
Maybe you could go read the rules and then start a forum topic about what people think of the rules.
You could do exactly
over
that.
on the OnTableTop website.
Yeah.
You might even win a prize.
Especially because Michael is very active over here on Tabletop, so we'll get involved. So yeah.
And especially if you start a forum topic that says, "Why didn't you use Lloyd's naming suggestion?" Why?
I can think of at least one reason.
But is it good enough? We'll see. Yeah.
Time will tell.
But yeah, so that's everything for the news. I love that I got to finish off on something Burrows and Badgers related. That's great. Fantastic. I'm done.
So 3D printing, fellas. I believe we've got a couple of cool ranges picked out to look at this week.
Yeah, so picked out two 3D printing Patreons, which caught my eye as I was perusing the internet. The first of these is another plosive name. It's PrintYourMonster. And they have been sculpting up all manner of interesting creatures and creations recently. Their latest sort of Patreon offerings, which you're seeing here, are for Dr. Rickla's Horrifying Laboratory. So if you wanted to go down the route of perhaps something pulpy, as we were looking at in the news with Her Majesty's name, then you have some quirky, interesting, mad scientist vibes going on here with a lot of the different 3D prints that you've got for this month. Big monstrous creatures there, as you can see. You've got terrain in there and scientists and sort of hangers on and all kind of things as well. So a really fascinating looking selection, and it was one that I'd not really seen before up until this week when I was sort of perusing Patreon. Just happened to type in 3D miniatures, and this one popped up, and it looks really awesome. So yeah, very cool.
That's not right. I'm not sure which is. I mean, the tripod that's a bit, isn't it? But the poor screaming child. Yeah. And I imagine ears and eyes have both been removed and replaced with better versions.
I would assume so. Yeah.
Look how much better you are now than you were before.
Just like the Adeptus Mechanicus.
Oh, you imagine putting them on a table for 40k.
Yeah.
Look at all this technology I'm going to give you. But to keep you warm, I'm going to give you a bin liner.
Yeah, they've got a tarp to wrap around themselves. I have to say the sculpting on that tarp is amazing.
It is really nice, yeah. And as with a lot of 3D printing Patreons and people who sculpt in the digital medium, there's also another My Mini Factory.
Just before we move on past the whole clothy tarp stuff, now in 3D there are packages that let you specifically do that sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
So what you can do is see the way there's a stitch line and stuff here.
Yeah.
Right. You can actually put cloth together in segments. So you can say this is the stitch line and this is the stitch line and hold it over your model, and then you can let the clothes fall down on your model and then kind of squeeze into it and pull it around the model, and it works out the folds and things like that. That's maybe what they've been doing here. So it's pretty swish
stuff. That's very cool.
It's whether you'll be able to print it or not. I guess we would assume they've tested it.
Yeah,
because it looks very detailed.
Yeah, I imagine it'll print. It's whether or not you have the resolution to pick up all the fine details. But if you don't, then you have just creased cloth. You're not going to lose anything.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, you will lose stuff, but at the end of the day, you'll still have a creased cloth around them.
Yeah, not enough to make too much of a difference, which is good. But as I was saying, PrintYourMonster doesn't necessarily just do this kind of strange, horrifying laboratory experiment stuff. There's also a whole range over on their My Mini Factory that you can go and check out as well, which sort of expands on this and looks into things like fantasy creatures and all sorts of things as well. So if you're in the market for something a little bit quirky, a little bit wee, a little bit woo, then they have a vast selection of different things for you to play around with, which is really cool. Like, for example, diving into a bit of D&D, you've got like an Orcus-style demon there, which is really awesome. Throw that into the mix. Be a good boss for you to end up fighting during your campaigns if you get to the end of it. And there's an example of a print as well, which is pretty cool. So you can get an idea of how much quality can carry over into them and stuff, which is nice.
Sweet.
I have to say, the terrain is one of the things that catch my eye, because you do see an awful lot of people.
Where?
Any of them, to be brutally honest. You've got Baba Yaga's chicken-legged hut there. You've got shroom-type things. There's boats. And again, it's one of those, a lot of people do miniatures, but then you don't see quite as many people doing combined ranges. So we say you've got miniatures, but then you've also got the setting for them. So imagine that's some sort of it is. So undead pirate set.
Oh, is it cool?
I mean, that's crazy good. That's awesome.
There's a boat on a crab. I like crabs.
Yeah.
I like boats.
Yeah, so there you go. A match made in heaven. And if
I like how if
Ben likes skeleton pirates, then the gang's all here.
I do. It's a triumvirate. We're okay.
Yeah.
So. I like that they've shown how it breaks down as well. So it's not one of those things where it's going to be one huge, monstrous, complicated print. It's going to be sort of broken down and then you just stick it all together again, which is nice.
Graveyard golems, sweet.
That's very nice. Yeah.
Again, I suppose a lot depends on people's printers as well, because I imagine a lot of these are, you can split them down, or if you've got the print bed big enough, you can, with my technology talk, Jer the tech guy once again, you can print them more solid.
Here you go. Here's an example of two different types of prints. I assume this is going to be one of the resin ones here.
Yeah.
And this is going to be one of the actual sort of filament ones that
FDM.
Goes back and forth, yeah.
But the thing that, like, I think one of the things that's been quite nice over, especially the last couple of years when we're looking at 3D printing, is, and you get this when you talk to Justin about a lot of the stuff that gets 3D printed, is there's little tiny tricks and things that you can work out with your printer to get the best out of it. So there's certain things that Justin does when he kind of like poses miniatures, or the way that he actually puts them into the bed and all that kind of thing, that mean that they come out looking better than they potentially would if you just sort of whack them into the program and just let them go, kind of thing, which is nice. So it's all a little bit of a learning curve, and it's a hobby in of itself, really, which is, emerging and very vibrant at the moment, as you can see, by a lot of what people have been doing. So
I think that's a key element to just highlight is it's quite in-depth at the minute, just getting up to speed with 3D print. It'll obviously get easier in the future, but like you say, Ben, it's kind of a hobby within itself at the minute, which is why we have a specific section for it. We've carved it off. So anybody who's not interested, you just skip this section. You don't need to.
They've already done it. They're not here. They've already gone, Lloyd.
You don't I don't care about 3D printing because you could have skipped this section.
The main thing as well to remember with a lot of these things, especially from these, is that with the Patreons, they often tend to provide the STL files for people to print at home. But then you can use things like My Mini Factory and other different sort of outlets out there. For example, like we talked about printing with detail, that will do physical versions of a lot of these. And Etsy is also a really nice place to go and try and find these kind of models as well. So a lot of people will do things just off their own back through Etsy and that kind of thing, and share them there too. So if you see a miniature and you really like it, there's no guarantee that it's just going to be digital. You might be able to find it in physical format.
Might be able to find a real one out there.
Yeah. I'm a real monster. Yeah.
Was that Mickey Mouse? Because that is true. He is a real monster.
Yeah.
So
Disney, as well as
check that out though, just before you move on. So that was like, if you go to myminifactory.com and then you look for Print Your Monsters, you will find that. But we've got another really cool one coming up.
We do, yeah. So obviously, Print Your Monster there was very much sort of fantasy focused and had some sort of creepy pulp stuff as well. Unit 9 is another creator over on Patreon who's been doing some really awesome stuff, but from a cyberpunk viewpoint. So, say for example, you've been inspired by the latest cyberpunk game to maybe play it on the tabletop. Then you can go and check out some really awesome looking sculpts from Unit 9 over on Patreon for you to use in your games, your skirmish games as well. So maybe things like Hint, for example, human interface. Maybe you want to go down that route, or maybe you want to try a different game. Maybe Stargrave, for example, would be a good one.
Hydrophilia.
Hydrophilia would be another nice one. Yeah. So there's a vast selection of different characters that have been done by Unit 9. Some of them taking kind of familiar pop culture characters, just as I see one there, and sort of playing around with the idea of them and using them on the tabletop. Some of them a lot more sort of original. Most of them, again, built on the kind of archetypal cyberpunks. So you've got things like Rocker Boys, you've got net runners, you've got your solos and that kind of thing as well. And it seems like a great time to go and pick up miniatures like this because obviously Cyberpunk Red is now out as well from the guys at Talasaurian. So if you want to dive in and play the role-playing game, you could also do that as well, which is really nice. But yeah, this is their February offerings. But much like with Print Your Monster, as we saw before, they're also doing a lot of stuff over on My Mini Factory as well. So go and check them out there.
Isn't that Rocksteady before he was turned into a boar?
Oh, I don't know.
It does look like it, yeah.
Which one was that? Not him. This one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain that is him. He's got the shades, he's got the haircut.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
He's just a tub of mutagen away from becoming a boar.
My Mini Factory. And who are we looking at again? Unit 9.
Unit 9 is the name of this one, yeah. So if you're interested in picking up these characters and getting them in a different fashion, you can do that here as well. So if you miss out on them as part of the Patreon, just dive in and pick them up over here because they tend to be available not necessarily just a month after, but maybe a couple of months after for everyone else to pick up. So a really nice sort of avenue to go down for a little bit more of a sci-fi adventure on the tabletop, which is pretty cool.
The bikes are sweet.
Yeah, bikes are very nice.
Awesome. Yeah. Again, going with the kind of hollow wheeled style, kind of Tron-esque, which is always nice to see. But yeah, there's the thing that I quite liked about this is there's a really nice selection of different styles. So you've got the kind of runners that you'd use as your heroes in a cyberpunk game, and then you've also got things like the soldiers that you could use as the enemies that you come up against. The slightly more sort of powered up, souped up police forces for the use on the streets as well.
Dogs, Ben, dogs. Look at that. Dogs.
Cyber dogs.
I told you, cyber dogs are the way of the future.
Cyber dogs. Yeah.
Cyber dogs. The big mecha was particularly interesting.
Which one? This one?
Go up. No, he's too small. That one.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk weapons platform.
Go big or go home.
Oh, yeah. Very much so. That's the sort of thing. That's a 2-man mech. That's how you do it.
That's very cool.
Pilot and gunner.
I wouldn't want to be this guy if you get into a really hairy battle.
That's all right. Because I imagine those masks, the faceplates actually close up, so you can have cockpit open or cockpit closed.
Which is nice.
It's not stuff coming from outside. It'd be stuff coming from above that I'd be.
Oh no! That's their self-contained pods in case you need to eject. I imagine that in my world they would be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just have them sitting on your shoulders. That'd be a bit weird. Don't want that.
I was going to say as well. What you're seeing here is stuff that will be familiar to some people from Human Interface, Nakamura Tower, which was the cyberpunk game that we looked at many years ago. Lloyd, I remember we did an article of it in our magazine back in the day as well.
I know, Swish. Why is that? Is it the same sculptor or something?
It's the same sculptor and design style, yeah. So you'll recognize a lot of the different characters in here, and the art style is taken from that game and sort of ported over into the Patreon, which is cool. So if you're looking just individuals away from the board game, then you can just pick these up here, which is nice.
That's sweet. That explains some of the other art, the sort of digital art and stuff, because I was looking at this, looks very familiar. I loved that hint stuff. That was cool. Next up, gents, the Kickstarters. What have we got for this week? Kicking
off things on the Kickstarter front with Loke Battle Mats, who are on Kickstarter right now with their big book of wilderness battle mats for you to use in games like Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder, and maybe another game which we'll look at in a little bit.
We were looking at these guys just a week or two ago. Warren was doing a Warren Meets Matt. One of their books.
So he did a Warren Meets Matt on some of their latest releases, looking at sort of urban locations. But stepping beyond the urban locations, the folks at Loke have gone out into the wilderness, and you can now pick up not just the big battle mat, which you're seeing here in the video, but also there's a smaller book that comes alongside it as a supplement, which can be used to build on it and sort of add together to create larger landscapes. Or as you can see here, they've used two of the larger ones to make a big outdoor sort of encounter on the tabletop, which is really nice. All of them come gridded, so they're perfect for traditional use in Dungeons and Dragons. But I quite like that the grids are like fairly faint on them, so you could try and get away with using them for some kind of skirmish game as well. I think if you wanted to try and sort of go off book in that regard. Very good. Yeah, I didn't even realize I'd done that. They've, as well as doing sort of traditional sort of foresty style environments, they've also done things like a lava field, and there's a desert, and there's stuff down by the seaside and that kind of thing as well. That makes it sound lovely, but you're probably going to get attacked on the seaside by terrifying goblins or
I imagine some sort of undead shrimp pirates on a giant crab boat.
Exactly
what's going to come up, coming at you like Cleopatra.
As well as being gridded, they're also wipeable with dry erase markers. So if you wanted to scribble things on them and then wipe it off afterwards, you can easily do that, which is good to see. And in addition to the books that they've done as part of the Kickstarter, they've also got a couple of accessory sets as well. So you can get their sticker set, which again Warren looked at as part of the Warren Meets Matt, which is sort of a reusable cling style sticker set, which can be used to lay down different effects onto the mats, and then sort of peeled off and stuck back into the book, so you can use them again at a later date.
It's static that holds them in place, isn't it?
Yes. So static cling is the kind of
it's like vinyl window stickers.
Yes.
Sort of thing. So if they stop sticking, soapy water.
There you go.
Let them dry out, and they're good to go again.
There's a free jerry can for you.
Yeah, I do like the stuff they do with these, especially. I see they've got a small book of battle mats.
Yes. Yeah.
And I imagine at some point we'll get the giant book of battle mats, because they tend to do them in those sort of triptychs.
They do. Yeah.
But over time, the original set were essentially expanded or cut down. When they've done the more recent books in small and giant flavor, they're not just the same mat, but slightly wider or slightly smaller. They've changed it, so you're not just looking at the same castle, for example, replicated 3 times, but you can combine them together. So you can use different sized books alongside. In the same way they've been shown off the 2 standard sized books sort of folded out and side by side, you can build up little small mini map areas using those things, and they all sort of join together or can join in various ways.
Yeah. In addition to the sort of physical rewards you can get from back in the campaign, they've also done a selection of digital offerings as well. So you can pick things up like adventure modules and stuff to play that kind of fit with the idea of the wilderness theme. And you can also get the digital versions of the mats to use in things like Roll20, for example. So if you're playing a lot of stuff online, as a lot of people are nowadays, then you can sort of dive in and use those, just slip them into the program, and they're ready to go, which is pretty awesome as well. And then you've got things like DM screens and all sorts of bits and pieces too.
You know, the weird thing is, because I'm looking at that DM screen, and I wouldn't use it as a DM screen, but I'm looking at it going, that's double-sided, and one side is like a lovely pastoral scene, and the other side is sort of mountainous area. Backdrop for photographing minis.
Exactly, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Swish. Loving it. It's well funded too, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Oh yeah, well funded with 10 days to go from when you're viewing this.
They are, well, they're well known now. Over the past couple of years, they've managed to ramp stuff out, so people absolutely love what they do, and they do it to good quality. So it was never in doubt that it was going to be well funded.
That's interesting. I didn't realize you got a free digital version with every book set.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
So while we're during the event, while things are going on during the event, you can sit down and play things online. And then when you can finally meet up with your friends again, you can sit around a table and rig out the mats. It's awesome. So yeah.
Just having visions of all your friends sitting around the table to play a game in person for the first time, and all doing it via Roll20 on their phones. It's just become so ingrained.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they're wipeable, because I would still be disinfecting after that.
Someone moves their miniature, Lloyd carries it on behind with a squeezy bottle.
Someone breathed on my book. Oh, I'll get rid of that. Oh. Moving on, gents. Next, I believe we've got some 10mm medieval type stuff.
We do. Yeah.
10mm again. What the heck? It's as if it's only just been invented. There was never any 10mm minis ever in the world until
we showed them off.
Yeah. That's it.
That is exactly how it
went. OnTableTop, the inventor of 10mm, and you didn't know it, but now you do.
So this is the 10mm Baronial Wars Mercenary Army Miniatures by Apocalypse Miniatures. So this is a set specifically as part of this Kickstarter of pewter cast, old school metal cast, mercenary figures for you to use during the 13th century and the Baron Wars, which have become very popular over the last couple of months, but all in 10mm. So the units that they've been working on at the moment are based on a lot of the different factions that would have been either fighting against the English or been hired by the English to beat up more of the English. So you've got mercenary Welshmen, Irishmen, and Scots to add into the mix and use alongside your English figures on the table.
I will say, in the grand scheme of things, the Irish gallows glass there, they were mostly hired to beat up Irish.
This guy here?
No, fellow. Well, yeah, him or there's a guy about with an axe as well. He's another gallows glass. But yeah, they came over with a fierce reputation. I'm going to say my family, the McCabe's, were literally hired by some bloke in Cavern to just batter everybody. That's the only reason the McCabe's in Ireland.
Actually do.
Because they just went, you want us to be police, you say? Oh, we have people, you say? With their axes, you say? Amazing. I'll do that. Right over there. So yeah, so you don't just have to do war and stick to the English side of things. You can do a lot of 12th, 13th century and even the 14th around Ireland and do small scale stuff there.
Well, here's your dates.
Yeah.
I don't know what this rule system, have they got their own rule system or what's this?
Yeah, so this is a rule system that they've been working on. They're quite a small operation, Apocalypse, but they're kind of, they've been doing things for quite a while now. And this is their set of rules called Army of God, as you can see there, which should be coming out to everyone to pick up in sort of Q2 of 2021. So sort of springtime, so watch out for that. And as you can see, it's kind of going to not just deal with that sort of period of the Barons Wars, but sort of a little bit sort of either side as well, which is pretty awesome. So if you want to dive in and do things like Crusades and that kind of thing too, or sort of later medieval stuff, then you've got some nice options there as well. But yeah, I really like the detail on these,
I suppose, as well.
Yeah.
I
really like the detail on the sculpts. It's really nice. Yeah.
The detail's amazing. I was looking at this going, this is all traditionally sculpted, no CAD involved. I would go blind. I mean, look at it. I would go blind just trying to paint that, never mind trying to sculpt that.
But you get down to a model's eye view now with your head rested on the desk, Lloyd. So.
Yeah, I know. my secret special way of painting.
Yeah.
That's class. Because when I first seen them, I was like, is that really 10 mil? With the amount of detail that's in them.
Yeah. And like, as I say, this is just looking at the sort of mercenary side of things, but they do have a bunch of sort of cavalry options and more over on their web store where they've been doing lots of knights and that kind of thing as well. So if you are interested in this and playing things at this much smaller level and scale, then you can
like Saga, for example.
Saga, for example.
Yeah. Saga. Just saying.
Gee whiz. It is funded, I believe, isn't it? But it could do with a bit more funding, peeps. If you're liking the looks of this, definitely rock in on that, because I think the quality of the sculpts alone deserve it. I wonder if you can you get like one with the minis and the rulebook and stuff together?
I imagine so.
Is that what they're trying to do here?
If you dive further down.
I think the core of what they're doing is for the miniatures, and then the rules may come after the fact. But yeah. So, yeah.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
Sweet.
The more funded they are, the more they can do. So yeah.
I'm gonna have to go and see if they've got a Facebook page or something like that.
We move on from that and we head along the road to Middle Earth and explore what's coming up from, well, it's now available, from Free League Publishing as part of their new Kickstarter for the One Ring role-playing game, 2nd edition. So...
yeah, they're not ruling anything with this One Ring in Middle Earth. They're bloody well ruling Kickstarter. Look at that.
Oh, yes.
740 grand. Gee whiz.
So the 1st edition, which was designed by Francesco Nepitello, was very, very well regarded. And
what is it? Is it a role-playing book?
It's a role-playing book, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it went up a bit more while we were looking at it.
And it's a role-playing game that a lot of people really like because it very much sticks true to the themes of Middle-earth and Tolkien's sort of like exploration of Middle-earth and its cultures and that kind of thing. It's not, as a lot of people said in like comments and stuff, quite rightly, it's not like all about dungeon delving and fighting, you know, reams and reams of bad guys. It's a lot more about journeys and meeting people and sort of embracing cultures and also fighting things alongside it and holding back the tides of darkness from
well, I should hope so, because you're describing Holiday Simulator there for a bit.
Yes, get in your caravan and go down to Brie. But this 2nd edition takes a lot of the core mechanics of the original game in the 1st edition and sort of updates and tweaks them, thanks to a lot of the player feedback they got from that. But still keeps it within the themes and ethos that they had with the 1st edition. The massive big change to this comes from the Free League Publishing side of things and bringing on the amazing artists who have done just stunning work with the book and the artwork and the layout. And as you can see here, the starter set as well. So this is like the massive big shift for this, is that the artwork stepped away from what could potentially be considered with the 1st edition, like a little bit sort of like twee country bumpkin style artwork, to a lot more of like a serious tone to it, which I think is just amazing. The artwork just blows me away whenever I see the stuff for this. It's really
my God, they have a cave troll.
Yeah. One cool thing, so sort of delving a little bit deeper to this as well, the RPG is set kind of between the time of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, in what's sort of known as the twilight of the Third Age. So, you know, moving towards the resurgence of Sauron and the power of the One Ring and that kind of thing. But you don't play as the characters from Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. You play as your own fellowship of individuals who are going out and making a name for themselves alongside the tales of Frodo and Bilbo and Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli and that kind of thing. They've shifted the setting somewhat as well from the Lone Lands into the more, I guess you'd say, well-known locations of Bree and Weathertop that people will be aware of from the films and the books in particular. And that is then mirrored in the starter set that they've done for this as well, which takes place in the Shire, where you play as a band of hobbit characters from different families who are trying to stop strange villainous undertakings within the Shire, which is pretty awesome. A lot of the sort of sorry,
I think it's cool that they've got rules on beer coasters.
Yes. I'm sure your GM would be very annoyed if you started resting your drinks on those.
Don't worry. I'm going to go out and limb here and say at no point has anybody from the OnTableTop crew used a coaster, even when they're put on the table for them. Yeah. They don't get used. So have no fear on that regard.
Even when we have viewers sending them in on our behalf.
Going, please use coasters.
Yeah. One of the really nice things about the campaign as a whole is that they've got the core rule book, which is, as you can see, done in 2 different styles. So you've got the original version of it, and then there's a collector's edition as well, which is sort of like a limited version of it, which kind of gives you the look of the Book of Westmarch, which is the book that Bilbo and Frodo wrote the stories down in, which is really nice. But on top of that, they've also used their stretch goals to add more stuff to the starter set that you see as part of this. So if you like the look of the starter set and all the gubbins that it comes with, getting in on the Kickstarter is like a really great way to get that sort of ahead of time before it'll be available from Free League later on down the line, because it'll come with all the bits and pieces in it before anyone else gets their hands on it, which is really nice. So you've got things like the maps and all that other bits and pieces in there, the sort of character villain trackers and that kind of stuff,
and the beer
which
coasters.
are the beer mats. Yeah. Yep. They've also added in loads of new adventure modules as well. So if you want to dive in and have a story told, sort of written down for you already, you can dive in and play through that, which is really nice. And just as someone who loves Middle-earth and likes collecting role-playing games, this seems like a fantastic one to dive in on, especially now that they've got the kind of backing of Free League and that sort of working together on this going forward.
Yeah.
So, yeah, really nice.
I have to say, if you are thinking of backing it and you can afford to get the limited edition one, do it. Yeah. I have 4 limited edition Free League RPGs up there, and they are stunningly good quality. I mean, the basic games are very, very good quality as well, it has to be said, but I do just like the limited edition. They do these really nice cloth covers and stuff on them.
Yeah. So they come with ribbons in them and everything.
They are works of art. Even if you just, as coffee table books, even if you never plan on playing the game. And it's nice to see...
as all the old role-playing games I have here.
It's nice to see Middle-earth getting an exploration again, because I started RPGs with MERP many, many, many moons ago.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's nice just to be able to go, none of that Lord of the Rings nonsense has happened yet. So having weird and wacky things happen to your characters, and they don't have to worry about suddenly tripping over a ring wraith. Maybe they do, depending on how mean your GM is.
Yeah. Depends how deep into Mirkwood you go.
Yeah, just being able to go about and do your business, and and everybody's a Dunedain Ranger because everybody's always a Dunedain Ranger.
It's like being Drizzt in D&D.
Yeah, that type of thing.
I want to be Aragorn.
It's a fantastic world to explore, and there's really so much beyond just the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. Obviously, you don't want to go too far. Nobody wants to delve into the Silmarillion.
Well, at least not yet, anyway.
No.
Yeah. I should add as well, one of the things they talked about is that there was a 5th edition version of the rules that was done called Adventures in Middle-earth, of which I have some books here. There they are, right there. Which meant that obviously you could just use the D&D 5th edition rules alongside a lot of the mechanics and the kind of themes that they brought across in the One Ring. But the main focus is on that sort of bespoke set of mechanics for this Kickstarter. And then the 5th edition version may come along down the line. They have done that already. Free League have already done that already for Symbaroum. So if they are probably going to do the same thing with this later on down the line.
I think they mentioned it somewhere in the Kickstarter that they are working or will be working on the 5th edition rules later on. because I did see that scream out at me at one point, but I can't remember if it was here or on their.
It is on their Kickstarter page,
or on their
so,
it might have been on their Facebook page or something.
So yeah, but I would definitely recommend checking this out if you're a fan of Middle Earth and you like role playing. A lot of people, as I say, really, really, really like the first edition of this and see it as probably one of the best role playing games that kind of goes in this direction for fantasy sort of adventure. So definitely check it out if you're even half on the fence with this, I think.
Cool. Well, there's 13 days left from when we first put this out, so you've got some time to jump in on that, peeps. Anyway, that wraps up the show. Remember to like the video, comment below, subscribe to the YouTube channel for one chance to win that Hit the Beach starter set, and come on over to OnTableTop.com and create a forum thread, and we're going to pick the most interesting topic over the next 7 days, and you're also going to win a Hit the Beach starter set. It's a no-brainer. Come on, get stuck in, be part of the OTT community. One of us.
Gibble, gobble, gibble, gobble.
Yeah. And then you can be extra special one of us by joining the Cult of Games. See us on your Sunday mornings. Hey, imagine waking up to this every Sunday morning. Fantastic.
Who wouldn't want to do that? Yeah.
Exactly. Right, peeps? Until next week, happy gaming.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.